All right, listen closely, because this isn't just another football talk. This isn't just another pregame breakdown. No, this is the moment where you start to feel that tension crawling up your spine. That strange mixture of excitement and unease that comes right before something big is about to happen. And I mean really big, because the Seattle Seahawks, a team that everyone thought would fade away into irrelevance after they shipped Russell Wilson off, and the national media all but buried them, are suddenly in a position where the narrative is shifting, where the ground underneath the NFC West may just be starting to tremble. And the closer we get to this showdown with the San Francisco 49ers, the more it feels like the football world is holding its breath, waiting to see if Seattle is about to shock everyone, waiting to see if the 49ers, once the unstoppable juggernaut that sent chills down the spines of entire divisions, are suddenly mortal. And the suspense here is thick, because on the surface, sure, you look at San Francisco and you see familiar names like Nick Bosa and Fred Warner. You hear that Robert Saleh is back in the building. You remember those years where stepping onto the field with the Niners was like willingly stepping into a storm you knew you couldn't control, but pause for just a second and look a little deeper, and you start realizing that this isn't that same storm. This isn't the same fire-breathing monster. Because while Bosa is still there, he's aging, Warner's not the machine he once was, and so many of those fixtures, those menacing cornerstones that used to make San Francisco feel inevitable, are gone. Greenlaw, Hufanga, Charvarius Ward, Hargrave, Malik Collins. All those names that used to stack the deck in their favor. They're not the same forces anymore, and now it's like this chilling realization that the 49ers might be walking into this season wearing the same jersey but not carrying the same fear factor. While the Seahawks, quietly, deliberately, have built themselves into something that no one in the media seems to notice. No one outside of Seattle seems to believe in, but all the pieces are right there in front of us if you know how to look. And I can't shake the feeling that we are right on the edge of one of those games that flips the conversation, that makes everyone stop and go, wait a minute, maybe we've been wrong about Seattle this whole time. Because here's the thing, and this is where the suspense starts to bite a little harder, the Seahawks didn't just survive last year, they retained virtually everyone from their 2024 defense, and that alone is good news. But it doesn't stop there. No, they didn't just keep what worked, they added to it. They layered DeMarcus Lawrence onto that defense. They brought in Nick Amon, this stud safety, who feels like a ticking time bomb ready to explode onto the national stage. And suddenly, the idea of moving the ball against this defense isn't so simple anymore. Suddenly, that 49ers offensive line is looking across at a wall of familiarity laced with fresh venom. And I'm telling you, it changes everything. Because when you combine continuity with an injection of talent, you get a defense that doesn't just compete, it suffocates. And the suspense here isn't whether Seattle can hang in the game. It's whether San Francisco can survive it. And this is where it gets wild. Because while Seattle has fortified, San Francisco has shifted. And maybe the scariest thing of all isn't that they're worse, but that we don't really know who they are anymore. Because the 49ers we think of, the 5-year stretch where they were this unmovable object, those days might already be behind them, and nobody wants to admit it yet. And if that thought doesn't make you lean in just a little closer, let me pile on, because Seattle didn't just stop at building up their defense. No, they've been tweaking at the margins in ways the national media won't even bother to report on. But those tiny adjustments can swing a season. They made those roster shuffles. 3 guys in, 3 guys out, 1 week into the season, and at first glance it looks like background noise, like cap casualties and practice squad shuffling, but then you realize they just added back a 6th-round pick from last year who actually started 6 games. A guy with real, tangible experience, sliding right back into the mix. And when you zoom out, you see this pattern. Seattle hasn't really lost anybody, not in a way that matters. Not like San Francisco bleeding out veterans and trying to patch holes with rookies. And that right there is the kind of quiet advantage that doesn't show up in headlines, but absolutely shows up on the field. And here's where the suspense creeps even deeper. Because while everyone is looking at San Francisco's reputation, Seattle is over here retooling their offense under a new coordinator, rolling out a new starting quarterback, tweaking that offensive line, adding receivers, and you tell me, what's scarier to face as a divisional opponent? The team you've studied, the team you know inside and out, or a team that comes at you with a fresh look, a brand new identity that you can't quite prepare for because there isn't enough film, there isn't enough predictability, and you're forced to react in real time. That's Seattle right now. And think about what that means in a divisional game where history says every inch matters, every adjustment counts double, because Seattle's defense, the familiar part of the machine, can anchor the game, hold things steady, give them the floor. While the offense is this unknown variable, this thing that could sputter, or it could ignite. And if it ignites, if the running backs find their rhythm, if Cooper Kupp, yes, Cooper Kupp, shows he still has that burst, that separation, that ability to tilt the field, if Sam Darnold, of all people, steps in and becomes not just serviceable, but the system itself, then the 49ers aren't just in trouble. They're standing in front of an avalanche with no exit. And don't roll your eyes at Darnold either, because I can already hear the national media, "Oh, he's in a new system. Oh, he'll struggle. Oh, he's just a stopgap." But here's the truth they're missing. He is the system now. They're building around him, not forcing him into a box, not trying to make him something he's not. And that means comfort, that means confidence, and that means danger. And when Vegas says the Niners are favored by 2.5, when the line sits there daring you to believe the reputation over the reality, I just shake my head, because I don't see it. I don't see how San Francisco walks into this and controls it. Now let's press deeper into the suspense, because the biggest piece that no one outside of Seattle wants to acknowledge is that the Seahawks defense made a transformation last year that bordered on shocking. Remember how they couldn't stop the run? Remember how that was the glaring hole, the easy way to crack them open? Well, they fixed it. They traded for Ernest from the Titans. They rebuilt that interior, and from Week 9 onward, they became a different beast. 5th in the league in defensive EPA, 6th in defensive success rate, and that's not a fluke. That's not a hot streak. That's an identity, and identities don't just evaporate in the offseason. They carry over.